Betsy DeVos, the education secretary under the Trump administration, is in love with for-profit colleges. In fact, as soon as she was chosen and confirmed to be the education secretary, she decided to fill that department with former for-profit college executives. That is important context for what I'm about to tell you. So, under the Obama administration, there were new laws, new regulations pertaining to for-profit colleges that were specifically defrauding students in their recruiting efforts. They were telling these students, yeah, take out all these federal loans. It'll be so worth it. You're gonna take this course, you're gonna take these classes, you're gonna graduate, and look at that, 99% of our graduates ended up being super successful in this field. So that was just an example of some of the fraudulent behavior that was going on with these for-profit colleges. And all these students took out all this federal student loan debt that they were then unable to pay back because these were horrible institutions. Some of them weren't even accredited. And so after some of these schools shut down, Obama had a debt relief program set up for them so their student loan debt would be forgiven. There were other programs as well, where if you work in public service for 10 years, as long as you make your student loan payments on time and you're doing everything right, after a decade, you will have your student loan debt forgiven. But then Betsy DeVos comes in and she's like, I'm gonna scrap it. I don't like this. Bye. We're gonna take some time to really reevaluate it and we'll get back to you. Now, a federal judge has decided, no, you can't do that, it's unlawful. So US District Court Judge Randolph Moss sided with consumer advocates and Democratic attorneys generals from 19 states and DC who had challenged the Trump administration's postponement of the regulations known as borrower defense to repayment. Now, DeVos had taken actions to delay rules until July 1st, 2019, in order to give the Education Department enough time to rewrite them. Now, again, it's important to keep in mind that the Education Department now consists of the very people who had participated in defrauding students. So when they want to rewrite them, that means we don't want to be able to forgive your student loans, even though you were a victim of this fraudulent behavior.
The judge called her DeVos's actions unlawful, procedurally invalid, arbitrary, and capricious. Those are not positive words. Okay, so apparently gave her a lesson. Okay, so I love the judge's ruling because she's like, why are you rewriting the rules? They got robbed. Why don't you give them their money back? And it's actually, to be fair, not even necessarily weighing in on the substance of it, but the way that they carried out delaying Obama's rules so they could rewrite the new rules. And by the way, if you did it right procedurally, it's okay. You won the election, kind of, largely. So what you're going to get to do is you let the Obama rules play out, and then you get to write your own rules. You do, and then you could say, hey, students, those of you who didn't get paid back in time, we're going to now rob you. But just give it time. But they can't stand it. Some of the kids who were ripped off are going to get some of their money back in that time period. And they're like, I don't want them getting their money back.
Again, there's no. I try to look for what is the governing philosophy here, and when you look at people like Betsy DeVos and Scott Pruitt, it really does boil down to what makes me look the most like a cartoon villain. Mm-hmm. It's not truly conservative. It's unless you're a dedicated kleptocrat, which does at least line up. I was on the show Parks and Rec, and at the beginning of that series, when we were putting the show together, the character of Ron Swanson was based on this person that we ran across in our research about local government, which are these libertarians who don't believe in government. Yeah. And they get into government to halt government. And that is the descendant of Reagan's philosophy of government is not the solution to your problem, government is the problem. But I think what he meant by that was, giving him a little bit of credit, was that there's probably a private sector solution to this that's better than the government solution. And as somebody who's been in line at the DMV, I'll grant you but over the years that has become perverted to government is evil. And now the Ron Swanson people are gone, and now you have people that are actively hostile to the concept of government. Mm-hmm. Scott Pruitt, Betsy DeVos, these people are the antithesis They are the personification of the antithesis of what their departments represent.
Yeah,
it's giving Phil Spector in charge. You're in charge of handgun safety.
Yeah. So look, I think the government. That's all excellent points. I think the governing philosophy is, what do our donors want? I really think it's just that simple. So we keep looking at it from our perspective of like, well, how would that help the citizens? You're supposed to be the head of the education department. How does this help educate kids? How does it help protect students? But we're looking at it from the wrong lens. Their lens is, how does this help my donors? Oh, the for-profit colleges donate to the Republican Party. They rip people off, and now they got to pay them back. Well, I don't want them to pay it back because they're my donors. So what we see as the problem, they see as the solution. That's the difference.
Yeah, and by the way, so there are two issues, and I want to make sure everyone knows the distinction. And Betsy DeVos has been horrible on both these issues. The first one is the debt forgiveness program if you work in an approved public service type job that the federal government says, yes, as long as you do this for 10 years, after that 10 years is up, we will forgive your student loan debt. People, that 10 years is close to up for a lot of people. They've been applying to get their student loan debt forgiven. Education department responds by saying, no, sorry, we're not. But why? But why? No reasoning, no nothing. And then the second thing is the for-profit colleges, some of which have shut down, and DeVos refuses to forgive their federal student loan debt, even though it's already been promised to them. Look, I don't know why she's doing that with the people who have been defrauded by for-profit colleges, because it's over. I mean, the for-profit colleges, they made their money, right? And some of them had to shut down because of some of Obama's regulations. But we're just talking about the students who have student loan debt tied to these schools that were worth nothing, that gave them nothing. And so the only thing that I can think of is, well, those students are paying interest on those debts, right? Those students pay a higher interest rate on their federal student loans compared to what the big banks had to pay back in those bailouts in 2008.
And people make money off that. One last thing here. On the debt forgiveness, they made a promise to those people that if you do that job, we will forgive your debt. And meanwhile, when there was the housing crash, they said, well, look, you made a promise to pay for that house, and now you can't pay for that house. That's a moral failing of yours. But when the government screws over kids who relied on that, or students who relied on that, and worked up to 10 years in a certain job based on that promise, and then we break that promise, that is also a moral failing of our government. So we should recognize that, and of course, in this case, the moral failing, in my view, unsurprisingly, comes from Betsy DeVos. 2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber, and second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.